And we are, as I said, nice for everyone who's here. And as Yael said, every day feels special because she's a mother, and that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So we are going to focus on this coming week, which is the preparatory week before Shavuos. Now, obviously, we can't compare preparing for Shavuos to Sukkot, let alone to Pesach, you know. So Pesach takes like intensity and weeks, for some a month, for some more than a month of effort. And Sukkot, you gotta like pull together a sukkah and then the food and the drinks and the lulav and esrog. It's got a lot more going on than making some cheesecakes. But spiritually, Shavuos is like, hey, this is when we became God's people. Like, you know, this is it. This was the bond. I can't say the beginning. The beginning was leaving Egypt, but this is really the bond. So spiritually, there's a lot going on here. And that's what we want to discuss in an hour. So whatever happens, happens. I know we have an hour. So we're going to start, it's Sunday night, and we're going to fast forward to Wednesday. I mean, you can start the work today, but Wednesday is Rosh Chodesh. And that day, if we go back 3,333 years, when the Jews came on Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the first day of the month, to the foot of the mountain, to the desert of Sinai, that really is like a crossroads. That was really like a very significant demarcation line in getting the Torah. And as it says in the verse, a very famous pasuk, very famous verse, Vayichan Shem Yisrael neged hahar, and he, the 3 million Jewish people, camped there at the foot of the mountain. And the famous words of our sages, how can you talk about 3 million people and say the singular he? We never did it before. We've never done it since. Ki ish echad belev echad. Like one man with one heart. Every single man, woman, and child there was united with one purpose, the purpose being to receive the Torah. Everybody was so excited. This is it. We've been working since we left Egypt on this. We've been working before we left Egypt on this. It's happening. So we were all like together, united, one goal, one mind, one heart. So this is really very current happening, meaning this was we're going to discuss a few others, but this was one of the real foundational works to receiving God's Torah, to being God's people, is that absolute unity, which of course I think, you know, in our current times and what we've gone through as a people over the past week, I think there probably is a pretty high level of unity, a high level of sensitivity. So we're probably coming in it with a lot of feeling for the subject, but that doesn't mean we don't have to do some work. So I wanted to focus a little bit on that work of feeling one with everyone. And of course, it's true for us as mothers, because we can sometimes have those feelings in terms of, you know, just being overburdened or what's going on with our children or with our spouses or with our in-laws or with our parents or with our neighbors or with all of the myriad of roles that we juggle constantly. So in every relationship in our life, this is really helpful. So how do we get to this point? Again, I really feel all of us are like probably far more feeling that absolute oneness with our people in a much more heightened way than we normally do, a much more sensitized way, and that's something we don't want to lose, and hopefully we will just utilize. So I think for sure we're there more than we normally are, but that doesn't mean we have to stop at this point. And I know those of us that were able to be on last week, we discussed this to a certain degree, and everybody worked with it, I'm sure, over the week. But a few ideas. One thing that just helps me a lot, a tremendous amount. If it doesn't do anything for you, that's fine. You know, all of us are wired differently. But what I've learned to tell myself when I see someone doing something that bothers me, that's wrong, is, we'll say she, just for the generic. It could be he, it could be they. Oh, she's just like me. I do the same thing. I mean, I don't do that at all. No, but I do the same thing. She's giving into her evil inclination or Yetzer Hara, and I do it too. And we happen to do it for different areas, different things. We have different temptations. But so what? That's just the window dressing. The core issue is the same. She's just like me. The line helps me tremendously because it's a very humbling line. And it's like, oh, wow, all right. Hey, maybe I'm even worse. Maybe my struggles are uglier than hers or more embarrassing than hers. And maybe I'm falling more on my face than she is. So it really helps me just remove any negative energy at all. It like is gone. So that's a free tip. Something else, of course, that we've discussed many times, that we've brought out many times. It's a great reminder point when you see something that really bothers you in someone else. Assume it might bother you because actually it's God's way of showing you something you have to work on yourself. Since we know that self-love is awesome at hiding our flaws, the rest of the world sees them, but we're oblivious. So one of God's ways of letting me know what I need to work on is showing me it in someone else. Because when I see it in someone else, I'm like, ew, that's really ugly. Wait, why is it bothering you so much? Oh, I've got it too. So besides helping me know what I need to work on, it removes the negativity I feel for someone else. A third idea, also, just a tip, is really focusing, as we've spoken so many times, how we're in the movement toward Mashiach. We're going in that direction so fast, which is probably why so many crazy things are happening in our world, just getting us in that space. Now, Mashiach, we know, is a time of limitless love. And to completely mitaken, to completely rectify the baseless hatred that got us into this mess called exile. Baseless hatred means, I don't like you. I just don't like you. Now that I've established that, I'll make up some excuse why I don't like you. I got to justify it. But that's only after the fact. The first thing is, I don't like you. You take up my space. You exist. You make me small by your existence. I don't like you. That's what entered us into the galut, into the exile. So the opposite of that is baseless love. I don't need to have a reason. You don't need to justify it. Just, again, like in our role as mothers, our children don't need to be extra worthy to deserve limitless love. You're my child. It's natural to have that limitless love. We give and give and give, and therefore we have a lot of love. So imagine a world where that's how we feel for each other, where we just want to do a favor for whoever's asking, just that we should have that opportunity. And I had this experience over Shavuos. Pretty close to Shavuos, someone posted on a group I'm at. I'm not on too many groups. I try not to be. But someone posted like, there's a woman stuck. Can anyone take her? And I'm like, a woman stuck. It's like very close to Shavuos. I mean, yeah, I could take her. And she came, and she's a very tortured soul. Someone with a lot of grief and a lot of pain, a lot of issues. And the whole Shabbos, I really put myself in this space of like, thank you, Hashem, for giving me this opportunity to help someone. It's such a gift you're giving me. I mean, I'm keeping Shabbos anyway. I have a room, a bedroom, next to a bedroom anyway. It's not a problem. Thank you for being able to give this tortured soul some peace, It's a taste of Shavuos. And I really tried to stay in that space of this is a gift. And it really was. This is a gift. This is really a gift that I could every minute be serving you and be helping someone without even really doing anything, just having her around. And that it's sort of like a taste of just that like energy of just loving people just because, not that they deserve it, not that they're especially this or especially that. Just pushing ourselves to be there for other people. We don't have to have a reason. That's the baseless love. That's supposed to be like the pulse of our relationships. So, I mean, sometimes it's just, buried under the surface, and then sometimes it's a little more obvious. But it's a gift to see it so clearly. So those are ideas that work for me, which is why I'm sharing them, because you think about what works for you. Anyone have things that work for them that they'd like to add, how they have been working, because I'm sure we've been focusing on this anyway, or how you can work this week as like our countdown, literally a countdown tonight in a week to really heal some relationships in your life as a beautiful way of telling God, I'm ready. I'm ready to receive what you're ready to give. So, anyone have any other tips that work for them? Or any response to the ones I raised?
I'll just say you're a tzaddiket for taking someone at the last minute. Because if someone posted that, I'd want to know who I'm getting, why are they stuck, and then if I had a tortured soul torturing me all Shabbos, I don't know if I'd be so gracious about it. So I don't know. I give you a lot of credit for that.
I don't think you have to. Everybody's wired differently. Yes, yeah. I did have a few of those thoughts. I'm human. I had a few of those thoughts, especially when I saw her. Like for a second, I got it. And it was like, I just like shifted it in my brain. Like, thank you. I thank you. Do I have this sneaky suspicion that she's going to show up on my doorstep on Friday? Yeah, I do. I do.
Oh gosh.
I do. And then it's like, and I already thought about it because I know it's going to happen. And I'm like, I really hope I'll just graciously take her in and graciously give her what I can. And I made sure she left today. I did.
So she stayed at your house from Friday until this morning.
That's a Shabbos, yeah. That's a Shabbos. But and I have this feeling she's gonna be back Friday. And I really hope I'll be really good about it. And I know it's gonna flow into Shavuos, and I hope I'm gonna be really good about it and stay in this space. And then after Shavuos, she'll go. And that's, that's okay. I can do it. I have a room. I can. If I didn't have a room, I wouldn't be able to. But I do have a room, so I can do it.
I have something to say. So I found when these people, I guess, show up at your door or need something from you, I feel like they keep coming back. Hashem keeps sending them back until you give them what they need. And then once you've passed your test of giving them what they need, you're good. They're not coming back anymore. They'll find someone else to go to. That's what I've noticed. No, really.
Is it that you passed? Wait, you said that you phrased that very interesting.
Yeah, Hashem needed something from you.
Said, give them what they need, and then you passed your test. So is it give them what they need? No, because they're going
both. It's more for you.
You give them what you need to give.
Yes, it's more for you to open your heart and for Hashem to see that you could be giving to someone who could be so damn annoying or someone who's just irritating and whatever. And I think once you do that, I've been in the situation a couple of times. Once you do it, and also if you don't do it, they're coming back, or somebody even more annoying is going to come into your face. I'm telling you, I've had a situation. So it's better just to do it and pass it and be done. It's like any test in life. You're going to keep getting it until you pass.
I hear you. I hear you.
Well, I hope you pass on Friday if she shows up again. Just don't send her to my house. I'm not ready.
She was okay. She was okay.
She was stuck in Chicago? Or she was,
You don't
never
want to know
mind.
the story. You don't want to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Al,
That's
do you want to
a
meet her?
conversation.
No, that's
You
one
seem very
thing I,
curious about her.
no, that's one thing I can't handle. I can't handle strange people in my home. That I can cook for anyone, call me for anyone who needs a meal. I'm happy to do it, but to have people in my house that are weird, I can't handle that.
So there's two levels to that. One level is maybe it's totally not your issue. And you know what? That you accomplished it in a previous incarnation. You're
Maybe.
done.
I don't know.
Like Shira's saying. Shira's saying it's not your issue, and therefore they're not going to come knock at your door. They know my door very well. I've you know, I've had many such situations. Also, it is also a point of just growth. Like I was feeling so, I don't know, some people have so much carry so much pain. So much pain. They've been through so much. And it I don't know, to me, it just makes me feel like, oh wow, like there's so much pain. She's carrying so much pain. And like both, if I can do something to make it a little better, like wow. And reflecting back on myself, on my own life, on my children, on my challenges, like Hashem, I am so blessed. I am so rich. Thank you. Thank you. So blessed. Tina?
Hi. Yeah, I was gonna say this story is so inspiring of you taking in this person. And it's reminding me of that. Just I have my mother likes to say this often. So I have twin sisters, and when they were, in the womb, my one of them had a growth that had like a 90% fatality rate. And my mother's whole thing was she knew she needed to grow and accept guests, and that was something that was very hard for her. And they said, come back in a week and we're going to let you know if she's going to survive or not. And in the meantime, family had come in from Israel, and they needed a place to stay last minute because they were visiting a grandmother that was, in her last days or something very serious or something like that. And they said that there was a couple showing up, and a couple came with 7 children, and on Friday afternoon. And my mom was like, freaking out, but she was like, I can do this, even though she was emotionally and physically exhausted. And not only did they come with 7 kids, but she said they did about like $7,000 worth of damage to her house, and they ripped up everything, her couches. Her house was like a war zone. And but she like was graceful about it and did her best. And she said Hashem gave her strength. And she went to the doctor on Monday, and she said that they'd never seen this before, but it was completely gone. And Rebbe Yashiv said that like the Shaila had gone up to Rebbe Yashiv in Israel because it was about a partial abortion if it was crowding out the other twin and the mother. And he said that like in that zechus, wow, like you did something over Shabbos that really brought you that zechus.
Wow. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. You know what that's reminding of? Remember, we shared this story. I don't know if we just shared it on our WhatsApp group or we discussed it, but remember the story of that like couple that got married during Corona, and somebody like mastered on them, and then he couldn't get married, and he asked their forgiveness, and the girl like said, I cannot forgive you. You destroyed my wedding night. And then finally, she forgave him. And then afterwards, they were in this crazy car accident and survived. Do you remember the story?
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Right. I don't know if we discussed it or if it was in our WhatsApp group, but I remember coming up here. It's just reminding me exactly what Dina's saying. Because that story was so much like this horrible thing. It's like horrible. I mean, here, this horrible thing. My wedding night is destroyed. I mean, thank God it sounds like her marriage is fine. But there's my wedding night, my dreams of years is destroyed. And it's like, God gave you that with that test of stretching to forgive someone as an enormous zechut to save your life. And I mean, Dina's story, like, wow. Like, imagine, I had one woman, imagine 9 people that are destroying your house. She didn't destroy anything. Destroying your house. And Hashem is giving you this as his gift. It's a free love gift to save your child. And it was so clear that like everyone got it. And sometimes I do, you know, it's sort of almost like guilty part of me, you know, it's like, who knows, you know, if you're gonna say no, like, who knows why this is knocking at your door? Who knows why this gift, this challenge has come? Who knows? And who knows what it's protecting? Who knows what it's gifting? You know, but that's very powerful, Dina. That's very, very, very powerful. We should see it, kindness, compassion, and not have our houses ripped up in the process. But I didn't really mean the story to be a centerfold. It wasn't on my notes. I was just bringing it in as like an example of this idea of stretching ourselves, of like loving other people, not that they make us feel good, they're our friends, they're relatives, there's a reason I should be good to them, just extending ourselves for people. And I think what Shira said is really very true. One way or another, and it's not just with this, it's with everything in life. God keeps creating us situations till we achieve what we're supposed to achieve. And it could be with our children, it could be with our spouse, it could be in any arena of our life. He's going to keep at it because he knows what we're capable of. And sometimes we have to go very deep to get to what we're capable of. But he's just going to keep pushing until we get there. So we need to sometimes just embrace it and say, okay, this is what you want from me. I'm here. Anyone else have any other response to these ideas or any other ideas that work for them? Because this is the week to work on it. And I feel we're all like in that mode. So we should really do a lot of amazing work this week with it.
I don't think this compares to what anybody was saying before, but Friday.
That's okay. Bring it down to the rest of us. Yeah.
Friday, I took two of my girls to Dairy Star to get some ice cream. And there was a woman, it was empty. And there was one woman sitting at one of the tables. She looked like a frum woman. And she was saying something to my daughter. My daughter got very scared and nervous. So she said, I can't go there. I need, you know, she was scared. So we got the ice cream and she looked at me and she said, can you come here for a minute? So I went and I said, can I get you ice cream? Are you okay? And she said, I'm stuck here. I need to call my husband. He knew this was going to happen to me. I need to call. Can I please, can you dial his number for me? So maybe at that moment I was the shaliach for her and she needed to call him and it was fine. But you know, I don't know.
But it stretched you because there was a little bit of like.
Right. A little, she didn't look sketchy to me. My daughter was afraid, that's all. But yeah, I felt good after.
It feels good after. You know what? There's those things also. I'll give a much smaller example, which actually was a big challenge for me also, just my limitations, is a good friend of mine asked me if I could come on Shavuos. She was having a kiddush in honor of her birthday. That should not be a challenge. But to me, it really was. Because I have my son who just turned 8 birthday on Friday, and it's hard. It could be very scary walking with him on Shavuos. Like I don't use the Eruv. It could be very challenging. And then in shul could be challenging with him. And then I have to walk him back. That could be challenging. And I said to her, I don't really go out on Shabbos, which is true. I never go out on Shabbos. And it was the morning, and I was like, oh, you know, like, why bother? Why put myself through all that? So it was a challenge, true confessions. And then I'm like, let's just go for it. And we went, and he was fine there. The biggest challenge there was he was eating all this stuff I don't want him to eat, wheat galore. It was a little challenging getting back, but we survived and we got home. And I felt so good that I did that. I was like on cloud 10. You know, it just was so meaningful to me that I, like Miriam saying about the phone, maybe it wasn't like very, very big for anyone else in the world. But for me, going out of my comfort zone and being willing to risk it with my son for, to do this because to honor my friend was it was a stretch, and I felt the stretch, but I was so glad afterwards. And I think a lot of times it could be big, it could be little, it could be big for you or little for everyone else in the world. It does make a difference, where we feel the stretch, and when we accomplish afterwards, it feels really good. And we're generally glad we did it. I was really glad I went there. I was glad I had the woman for Shabbos. I was really glad for both of those reasons. So that's something to really stay focused on this week. Anyone else have any feedback on this?
I like how you're using the word stretch. I haven't heard that before, and I like that. It's like a muscle. I like that.
It is. All right. So that's Wednesday. Now, you don't have to wait till Wednesday until you start being nice to the people around you. But that's really Wednesday's work. Now, again, it continues Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday. It doesn't have to stop once we get the Torah, but that's like starting Wednesday. Rosh Chodesh, Wednesday. Thursday is the second day of Sivan. Our sages call the second day of Sivan Yom HaMiyuchas, which doesn't translate very well, but would mean like the very illustrious day. Why do they call that day for us this year, Thursday, Yom HaMiyuchas, the illustrious day? So the reason is because on that day, God anointed all of us, every single Jew. He said, and you shall be for me Mamlechet Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh. You will be for me a nation of priests and a holy nation, a holy people. We were all, every single one of us, all 3 million of us, we were all there because we're reincarnations of them. But every Jew, even the ones that weren't there, are elevated to the level of Kohen, to the level of priest. Actually, each one of us is elevated to the level of Kohen Gadol, the high priest. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says that by Mashiach, every one of us will be on the level of a high priest, women included, able to go to the Holy of Holies whenever we want, men, women, whenever we want. We're all going to be that close to God. So this idea started on Thursday, on the second day of Sivan. And how does this relate to me? Because everything's supposed to go back to me and my work. So it's really gifting me with the challenge or the gift of being noble, of nobility, of malchut, which is really the final week of the counting of the Omer, is the trait of malchut, of nobility, of sovereignty. Meaning like we all have royal blood. We should all look at ourselves that way to access our royal lineage, because we don't usually think of ourselves that way. Meaning it's sort of like behave with dignity, because you should know that you matter. You should know you're significant. You should know you have what to contribute. You should believe that. You should believe you're a leader. Each one of us in our own arena. It's interesting in the Gemara, in the Talmud, it says each day of the week what the child will be like. And it says about Sunday, that children born on Sunday are leaders. Now my Dofer, my Bero, who turned 8 Friday, and who's Down syndrome, was born on a Sunday. And I always looked at him like, okay, well, listen, this is the words of the Talmud. I know he's going to be a leader. I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt. Because there's that ability that we all have to be leaders in different ways, in different arenas. So this is the work of this week, specifically starting Thursday, besides the other work. I'm talking about a lot of work. But besides the work of embracing other people and knocking down the barriers between us and others, it's really looking at myself as royal and acting accordingly. Like it says about the Queen of England, that they have weights. I don't know the current princesses, but the Queen says she has weights in the bottom of her skirts. So if she's outside and there's a wind, it shouldn't fly up. Why not? Because she's the queen. So I'm a queen. Each of us in our own arena. I'm the leader. I'm royal. I represent something. Obviously, Kol Kavod Bas Melech Pnima, the honor of the princess, of us, of the queen, is inward bound. Of course, the world gives us very, very different messages, but it's part of this whole work of malchut, of sovereignty, of royalty, is realigning with that energy, with my real royal energy. Meaning, like, all of us, whatever we're like on the outside, on the inside, we're very refined. On the inside, we're very noble. Now, I don't feel that way a lot of times because I was born in America. You know, we're all, I mean, we're all of us that I know, we're very American. Americans are very democratic. None of us should feel too holy or too regal or too noble or too refined. Those words are like totally not in our vocabulary. We're supposed to be very casual. What's an American party? Like a barbecue, you know? But I need to align with what's really me, not just with this external culture I've completely absorbed. And in the inside, what's really me, which very much is the energy of Thursday, is I'm noble. I'm not casual. I'm not common. I'm noble. I've got royal blood. I've got priestly blood. You know, like a lot that we're exposed to just chips away, like refinement, dignity. Those are so not passe words, like whatever. Nobility. But that is our true inner self. If I really could get in sync with me, it's difficult. What I'm going to find is refinement and dignity and nobility. That's me being true to me. And that's me at my healthiest. Because when I'm aligned with my inner self, I'm in sync. And that's a very, very, very healthy place to be. So you could say, great, that sounds nice. But how do you get there? So we have a beautiful rule from Sefer HaChinuch, which is a very practical rule, applies in many situations. Acharei ha'ma'asim nimshachim ha'levavot, which means after the actions follows the heart. Which means when you act a certain way, it pulls out the inner reality. So noble, dignified, refined. But when I act as if I was noble, as if I was refined, as if I was dignified, as if I had royal blood flowing through me, consistently acting that way actually changes my inner reality, which here is not a fake out, because that is my inner reality. So it brings it out. It brings it out. I don't know if anyone here, I mean, of course, we've spoken about this theme before in other contexts. So I don't know if anyone here has tried such work and has any success stories to share, but or not. But it's really powerful to find out something about yourself that your whole culture told you was opposite, but this is actually really you. Anyone have what to share on this? I think this actually has a lot to do with what we were discussing before Pesach. We were talking a lot about the idea of being nullified as like a tool to get out of our Egypt. To me, I really see the sync here that like when I'm nullified, that's big work for me. But I've really been working on it. I have not given up. I'm going to get there. When I'm nullified, it feels like a much more regal, noble space. I'm not going to say it's 100% natural, but I can say I'm getting better and better and better at it. Does anyone see the connection I'm making or sort of experience something like that?
Nope, I don't see the connection at all.
Great. Anyone see a connection between the two? Okay. I love these Zoom classes. Let me tell you, Zoom classes are awesome. You're all behind screens. I don't hear anyone's voices. If we were in Shiva's house, everyone would be responding. Let me explain. and maybe it's just me because I'm such a not nullified person. And I've really been working on it. Like I have really taken this to heart, big time. So each time the situation comes up where I nullify myself, very often it's with my husband, it just more and more puts me in a space that's like, how should I explain it? Me would be like, whatever. But being nullified, I'm just very like, okay. It's a very like queenly, regal, refined space to be, because again, it really doesn't feel like me that much, but I'm getting better at it, so it feels more like me. I'm just like, okay, like moving with it, not, you know, my halo is shining, and I'm just very holy and very, very, very refined. Trying to think of an example. It comes up all the time, little things, very little things, but I'm sure it happened today a bunch of times. It's Sunday. I remember even something happening. I just can't remember what it was. I don't know. I know something happened today. It wasn't so big though, so I can't remember. Something happened yesterday, a small thing. My son had moved the couch. And after Shabbos, he had also done like 20 other things. You know, and I'm cleaning up the 20 things. It's not such a big deal. No true damage was done. Everything can get put back into place. So I'm cleaning up everything after Shabbos. And I started moving back the couch. And my husband was like, oh, like you'll scratch the floor if you do that. And my pre-nullified space would have been to say, like, it's not going to scratch. There's pads under it. It should sit in the middle of the living room. Maybe you could do it too, and then we'll pick it up and move it back. Like,
Yeah, do it yourself.
One of the million normal things to say, but I'm being nullified. So I just said, okay, and I just left it where it was. It's still there. But that was like a much more refined response than any of the ones I would have given if I was in my normal me, AKA 21st century American mindset. It felt much, much more pure and regal to be like, okay, and I just walked away from the couch. So not a big deal. It wasn't a big challenge at all. It was no challenge, no stress. But it felt more refined. It felt like a different level of operation. And
Yeah, I have that all day.
What?
Yeah, now that you give that example, I have it all day. But I don't look at it as like more refined. I look at it more like I've lost my control. So just kind of like, whatever. I can't do anything about it anyway. So like, whatever. I don't feel this like sense of like royalty.
It's a sense of a higher level of operation. In other words, there's the like, let's just get this done, let me just like say it like it is and like get the other person to do what I want them to do and like just take charge and take command and like state facts and everyone has to follow. Normal American operation. We're a nation of entrepreneurs, a nation of self-made men. That's our vision. That's our motto. Rough and tough and build yourself up. And then there's that royal person that starts off on the top of the mountain. And they're not rough and tough. And they don't feel a need to exert authority because they know by nature, they're already on the top of the mountain. So they don't need to do anything to prove to themselves that they're okay. And therefore they can be like, okay, we'll just leave the couch in the middle of the living room. Like, no problem. And
what's the difference with that and being more of like a tag along or a follower?
I think the difference has a lot of what's going on inside yourself if inside yourself, you're intimidated by the other person, and therefore you're like squashing yourself because you're fearful, then it's a very unhealthy space to be in. But if you are securing yourself and you're graciously giving them the gift, then it's like you're noble. Like you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to prove anything to anyone else. You don't have to prove anything to yourself. You don't have to like win. You know, it's like if there's a conflict between, let's say, husband and wife. And a lot of times when I'm speaking to someone, you know, I would say, it doesn't have coworkers, I mean, any relationships. Who cares who's right? Usually that's not the issue. You know, you could be the stronger one and give it up. Because ultimately that's more important than who's right. So why does the person have a need to be like, but I'm right? Because you need to prove it to yourself, because you need to validate yourself, because you don't feel secure if you don't win. But if you feel really secure, you don't need to win. So that knowing you have the royal blood, knowing you're noble in essence, drops the need to win, drops the need to show anything. It's like someone who's really wealthy doesn't have to flaunt it. If it's them in essence, there's no need to flaunt it. They know what they have. But someone who's more like newly acquired, they have a very strong need to show it. And it's like that also in relationships. If you feel very comfortable with yourself, if you feel healthy within yourself, you can let the other person have what they want. This doesn't really make a difference. Who cares? You know? He said it. I know he didn't. He said, I said it. I know I didn't. Who cares? What difference does it make? Only if I'm insecure and need to prove I'm right does it make a difference. If I know I'm on the top of the mountain, if I know I'm royal, I don't have any insecurities, so it's fine. So that's what I mean. It's like a very noble, refined space. Anyone have
Mrs.
anything
Turn.
else? Yes.
Yes. Couldn't you have just said, okay, honey, you're right. It'll scratch the floors. How about you pick up that end? I'll take this end and we move it back. And the living room will look in order and everything will be fine.
I could have said that, but I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I could have said that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that. I
Okay.
just more was like, okay, fine.
And it didn't drive you crazy that the couch was in the middle of the living room all day?
Well, obviously, if I mentioned it, that means I still am aware the couch is in the middle of the living room. And at a certain point,
Right.
we got to do something about it. Of course, I have barely seen my husband all day today, so there really wasn't much opportunity. So it will at some point get put back. But I felt at that moment, the test for me is just to say, okay, and walk away.
Okay.
No problem. But there's
What if
nothing
you
wrong
said-
with responding the way you did. Nothing
All
wrong.
right.
And I think sometimes, like whenever we're working on a trait, like, you know, Maimonides says, when you're working on something, go to an extreme to come to the normal middle balance ground. So maybe just saying, okay, and walking away is quite extreme. But since by me, it's, you know, a big work in progress, I need to be really extreme now about it until I can normalize and become like normal functioning of like, why don't we do it together? Yeah, it's a great idea. Instead of what would have been more normal to me, which would be like, there's pads on the bottom. It's not going to scratch. Look, it got pulled all the way here and it didn't scratch the floor. Why would it scratch the floor when it gets pushed back? You know, that would be my normal
That's what I was-
brain. So for me to just go to the extreme to try to get normal is like, okay, and just walk away. Honestly, it wasn't a big challenge. Like it really wasn't at all. And I know something happened today along those lines. I just cannot even remember it. The couch I remember because it's on the middle of the living room. But like these little things happen. And each time, going back to what Shir was saying, it's like God's gift. Like, oh, you want to improve in this area? No problem. I'll give you a lot of opportunities. And each time, if we can think of it that way, like, oh, thanks, I'm trying to get better. So I appreciate your helping me. It just moves it along. Like, there's so many things in life which is just our mindset. I had this like beautiful moment last week. It was Sunday, and I used to get something from a neighbor. I think I said this actually last week. Sorry if I did, I don't remember. It was not a big deal, but I was alone with my son, so I had to, I mean, there's no one else in the house, so I had to take him, which I think is always a little bit challenging. Even here, it was Sunday, I wasn't worried, but still, I don't love doing it, but I did. And, you know, we were walking and he started running and I ran with him and we got the neighbor, we came back, got what I needed, and we ran back. And I don't know, something opened up in my heart. I was running with him and I was just feeling, oh my gosh, such love and joy for this amazing gift Hashem gave me. And it's so easy, like in that situation, you're dealing with a special needs child, to feel like, oh my gosh, so much to give, so much, never ending trying and working and this and that. And it was such a beautiful moment because it really wasn't work, it was just a gift from above, just to feel such love and joy in my child. So like so often, it's like what's going on in our brain, that how we, I don't know if what I said just made any sense to anyone, but how we process the situation. If I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this, and now it's a whole deal, and I've got to make it fun and run there and run back, or it's like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Here I am running with my child down the street, you know. And it just really makes you see it that way because it's really what it is. So that's Thursday. Thursday is the idea of when we became noble. There's something else that Malchut, that sovereignty, means in a Jewish way, in a godly way, which means nullified. And of course, we've discussed that at the beginning of our classes, which was, I don't know, almost 3 years ago, something like that. That Kabbalistically, this energy of God, Malchut, sovereignty, has nothing of her own. Everything that she has is from the higher godly dimensions. And just like in the Jewish perspective, a king, oh, he has so much power, he has so much wealth. Not really, he has nothing of his own. He doesn't work for a living. He doesn't produce anything. He doesn't go out and plant crops and have flour that he can make into bread. He has nothing. He just is given it by the people. If the people stop giving, he'd have nothing. He'd be less than anyone else because he's got nothing of his own. So this is also something that started with us on Thursday, on the second day of Sivan. And it's also big work of really inside ourselves, when we make a space for God, it's like emptying out our own stuff. And the more we can empty out our own junk, the more God shines through us. It's like Moshe Rabbeinu. It says in the Torah, so it's for sure true, that Moshe was the most humble man that ever walked the face of the earth. Now, I mean, he did a lot of stuff, you know, redeemed the Jews, 10 plagues, in heaven 120 days, led us for 40 years, gave us the Torah, like, did a lot. He didn't know about any of that stuff. So our sages say that he knew what he did, but he truly believed that if anyone else had received the gifts from God that he had, they would have done much more. They would have accomplished much more. So he knew everything he did, and he was so humble that the Torah testifies he was the most humble man that ever lived. Absolute leader, absolute humble. So we shouldn't have as big a challenge, but it's just sometimes like that state of nobility is like emptying yourself out of all of the junk that blocks, that's a barrier between you and God. all of the stuff that's like me, self, which is really me, obstruction of those energies, me filling up the space with a lot of emptiness, instead of like letting Hashem shine through. So it says, Mamlechas Kohanim, noble, sovereign, royal, dignified, empty and nullified. And the second half of the phrase is Goy Kadosh. Goy Kadosh means holy nation. What makes us holy? God's commandments. And commandment by commandment, this is what happens. Commandment by commandment, we are changed. We start off in this world, our sages say, really coarse. We probably remember. Very physical. And then we do a lot of mitzvahs. We serve God in a lot of ways. And God keeps pushing us. So we keep serving him. And we think, like, I was speaking to someone who's lost his job, you know, whatever, one of these, I can't even see it was a COVID issue, just corporation merging, fallout type of stuff. And I was suggesting, oh, do this, and I'm doing it. I said, wow, like you're getting really holy. He said, yeah, I never thought I'd be this holy in my life. You know, I never thought I'd be so holy. I'm like, okay, I guess this is what God wants from you. He says, yeah. I said, all right. So the challenge is you're going to get a job, you're going to get an even better job, and keep it up. We don't want to give God a reason to do this again. Keep it up. He wants you to be this holy, keep it up. So God is like good at like sending us challenges that we never thought we'd have to make us far holier than we ever thought we'd get. And in general, it's commandment by commandment, step by step by step. My impurities get charred. My impurities get burnt out. So ideally, I mean, if we're doing it right, we are constantly improving, not just, of course, in general over life, we hopefully mature, but we improve because as we keep going and as we do another mitzvah and another mitzvah, we get more sensitized. So we realize how vulnerable we are. We realize how dependent on God we really are. And the more you realize you're vulnerable and the more you realize you're dependent, the more you serve. It's like a spiral because, oh my gosh, I'm so vulnerable. I'm so dependent. I need God for so much. And we do. And like the older your kids get, the more you need from God, you know? So it makes me grow more and appreciate more and be sensitized more and like realize I'm changing. Like as we serve, like I feel I'm more vulnerable, I serve more. And then it makes me even realize how even more dependent I am. So I serve more. And then the more I serve, the more my coarseness gets charred away. And the more my coarseness gets charred away, because this flame of the commandments is charring away all my impurities. And then what happens is I become a different person. Over many, many days, over many, many, many mitzvahs, over many, many challenges. And what happens is I become in an active relationship with God instead of a passive cultural one. Like imagine for many people, the last time they really learned Torah, they were like 17 or 18. Like, you know, you go through school and you start off in preschool. I'm talking about someone in the whole religious world. And you go through high school and maybe you do a year of seminary and you're about 18 years old. Now let's fast forward, you're 40 or plus. And what's your relationship to God? Is it at the maturation you had when you were 18? You know, when you were learning the stuff then? Well, now you might look at things very, very, very differently. And we do. Because we did another mitzvah and another mitzvah and another mitzvah. And each mitzvah changed us and changed us and changed us and brought us to places we might never have thought we would ever have reached and never even thought we wanted to reach. And if you look back a year, if you look back 5 years, if you look back to when you were 20, you should be looking at a series of different people. Sometimes it's more subtle, sometimes it's more obvious. As you go back further in time, you should see like there's a progression. And I'm different, and my goals are different, and my values are different. And therefore, the way I talk is different, and the way I think is different, and the way I dress is different, and the way I treat people is different. And mitzvah by mitzvah, I should be a little less coarse, a little less earthbound, a little more sensitized, mitzvah by mitzvah. So that might be a hard thing to notice, and it might be a hard thing to talk about on a Zoom, but it's really an amazing thought. Each person, depending on their age and stage, to understand this happens starting Thursday. That's when God said, Goy Kadosh, you're going to be holy. I'm going to get you. I'm going to make you holy. How am I going to make you holy? I've got a whole plan. It's called serving me. Serving me is for a lot of reasons. Serving me is to bring Mashiach. Serving me is to accrue reward in this world and the next world. And serving me is to change you. Serving me is to make you a Goy Kadosh. To make you totally different than you might have ever imagined you would be, or ever imagined you wanted to be. But you'll get there. God knows what he's doing. You'll get there. I don't know, like I know even for myself, because if I would have thought when I was a kid that I would at this point in my life have this number of children and be leading my life in this way, I would be like, no, for sure not. What are you talking about? I won't, and I'm not interested, and that's not my life. But God has a way of moving us and moving us and moving us. I don't know if anyone else can like see that in themselves. Sometimes it's good if you think back to like when you're 15. You know, maybe that's more obvious than like a year ago or 5 years ago. But just like looking at your values now and looking at what's important to you and looking at what you prioritize and how you make choices you make, and think, would I have when I was 15 thought I would make these choices? Or would I have wanted to make these choices? So what happened? God said, my plan happened. Goy Kadosh. I got you to do a lot of mitzvahs. And mitzvah by mitzvah by mitzvah, you change. Anyone can resonate with that? Anyone can see that? How even if we don't realize it, as we serve, we change.
For sure. Just on Shabbos, my kids are looking at some albums that I probably shouldn't have out. Like, Mom, you wore tank tops out. You didn't cover your hair. And I'm like, put that away now.
Burn the pictures.
Yeah, but burn them.
Or hide them.
No.
Don't burn them. Hide them.
I look so hot then. No way am I hiding those or burning them. No, but like definitely I see like, oh my gosh, I wore that. I thought that way. What was I think? It's just, and also as you get older, you see more, I guess you see more real issues in other people's lives, and you see how people are like suffering and pain, and it starts to make you think, you know what? It's not so bad. Like my kids are healthy, and like your priorities totally change. Like I things I used to care about, I'm just like, oh, that is so not important. What a waste of energy. So yeah, definitely, for sure.
I still think you should hide the pictures. Keep them for yourself. Your kids don't need to see them now. But I appreciate what you're saying. Anyone else? I mean, so I guess Hashem showed it pretty clearly when you look at an album. And anyone else can.
I can relate to that and the pictures. And I actually did finally just throw out all the pictures because I grew up non-observant and didn't start becoming observant until I was like 20 something, and it was a long road. And so yeah, I got rid of the pictures, and I even got rid of some of the baby pictures from like my older children, because my son at Masifter is like, why did you take a picture of that? Like, what is that picture? Like, why do you have a picture of that? And you know, so it was like you could see the evolution over time of, as you know, we took on more and more mitzvahs, and not even taking them on, but just performing them in a different way. You know, refining your lifestyle, refining what's important, what really matters.
It really happened. It's a very cool thing. And this actually is completely the same idea that I said before, that very significant to me quote from Sefer HaChinuch, "Acharei ha'ma'asim nimshachim ha'levavot." Your actions mold your inner reality. Like, why should it be because you light Shabbos candles that you're sensitized and feel you should cover more of your body or not talk that way in front of your children? Like, what's going on? Like, what does one thing have to do with another? But this is God's system, that mitzvah by mitzvah, happened Thursday. Goy Kadosh. I'm going to make you guys holy, like it or not. You're going to get there. I'm going to pull the strings on your life and make you realize your dependency and make you realize your vulnerability and have you cling more to the commandments as like your anchor and your line of connection. And you're going to change. You might not be wanting to change. You might not be thinking you're going to change. You will change. And like Shira and Simcha are saying, pictures is a very strong, I really dressed like that, which as Shira was saying means, and I really used to think like that. It's like part of a whole package deal. The dress is just expressive of a lot of other things. That used to be me. I forgot. And like, oh, wow, thanks. This is God's system. It works. It really does. And this is part of becoming his people, that we have a different power than the rest of the world, even though there could be many holy, wonderful Noachites out there, and there are. I know them. But every action of ours is very significant, and every good thing we do changes us and reverberates around the world. Really, literally changes the energy of the world. And when we're in that positive space, it changes worlds. And conversely, when we're not such a positive space, that also has a lot of impact, which you don't necessarily realize, or you do realize. I mean, even thinking very simply in terms of your own little family unit, where it's most obvious. When you're in a great space, in a grateful space, in a joyous space, everything runs. And everyone around you is like in that mode. And if you're like in a mood, besides nobody wants to be around you, but like the whole energy of the house, like just your own little mood is like changing the reality of all the people in the house and then rippling out to all the people they encounter. We're very powerful people, and we should relish the power and the positive. Like they say about Napoleon, that he would wake up very, very early in the morning. And it'd be like, hey, he's the king. He's got ultimate power. Why does he have to wake up at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m, whatever? And he said, well, it feels so good to be Napoleon. I want to enjoy it all day long. So it's something to really feel like, wow, I'm that royal. I'm that noble. I'm that significant. I'm that powerful. It feels good to know that what I do really, really makes a difference. Makes a difference for me, makes a difference for my husband, makes a difference for my children, and makes a difference for this whole world. This whole world is different because of what we choose to do in very good directions, hopefully. So that was Wednesday. Rosh Chodesh. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the time. It's late. Okay, I'm going to try to finish up, but I did want to speak a little bit about it. So Wednesday was absolute unity. We gave some tips on creating more unity among ourselves. Thursday, Mamlechas Kohanim, nobility, nullification, Goy Kadosh, over the process of serving God, how we've become that Goy Kadosh, how we've become much more refined than we ever dreamed we wanted to be. That's Wednesday, Thursday. Then we have Friday, Shabbos, Sunday. What are Friday, Shabbos, Sunday? Well, those are called the 3 days of Hagbalah. Shloshes Yemei Hagbalah. The 3 days of like the barriers around the holiday of Shavuos. So Shavuos is such a significant spiritual day. It's a day of me and God becoming one. So we had like 3 days of preparation after the 2 days we're talking about. Wednesday, unity. Thursday, holiness, nobility, submission. And then we have Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, which is the official, those are the official days of preparing to receive the Torah. What are we supposed to be doing then in my overtime? So I'm going to say this quickly. The work that the Jews did then to receive the Torah, we're told, and you probably all learned this like in preschool, but they might have explained to you what it meant, is that we said to God, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do, and then we'll listen and process and understand. Which means it's 3 days amid everything else you're doing. Just go to Shabbos, there's a little more time to think, of focusing on getting closer to God, receiving his will, receiving his wisdom, receiving his word, and nullifying myself. We spoke about nullification before, so we don't have to talk about it now again, because you'll remember my couch. But it's really important days to work on nullification to God, because that's the main work of receiving his Torah, is by being open. When you're nullified, you're open to God. The more open you are, the more you can receive what he wants to give. It's just like in a marriage. The more you're open and nullified, the more you're a recipient, and therefore your husband wants to give. The more you're open and nullified to God, the more you're the recipient, and God can give. He wants to give me the Torah. I want to work to be in the space to receive it. Well, like it or not, he's giving it. True. But I want to receive it. Now, in my relationship with my husband, if I'm not in that space, he might not be giving. God's going to give. But I need to be able to really take it in. And my space, my inner receptivity impacts how much I can take it in. So that was Wednesday's word, Thursday's word, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday. Sunday night, a week from today, we enter the holiday. Such an important day, such a holy day. In the Torah, it's one day. Obviously, we here have it as two, but in the Torah, it's one day. In Israel, it's one day. By us, it's two. So it's one day, unlike Sukkot or Pesach, because it's the day of one, the absolute oneness of God. And when the Torah is read, that first day, which this year is Monday, literally we are being given the Torah anew. I believe for time 3,333. God's giving it to us like he never gave it to us ever before. Every year he gives it to us a little more than he ever exposed himself before, a little deeper, a little more intimate every single year. And that's why it's really important to be there. So for people that never get to shul, that's the one day to try to get to shul. Some will say that's the last day they ever get to shul because their husbands come early and then they eat and then their husbands nap and it's a whole crazy day in their house. That is the most important day to get to shul. To be there when the Torah is read, you can just hear the 10 Commandments and leave, and bring all your children with you, even the smallest child. As originally, every single Jew stood at the foot of the mountain. And I had this with Dover, who's born, as I said, the 25th of Sivan. So he was about 2 weeks old, and he's very small. So he was a really small 2-week-old baby. And I brought him to shul for hearing the 10 Commandments. And remember, I was walking there, and like someone looked at the carriage and like, wow, that's a real newborn. He looked like a real newborn. But he was there. He got the Torah. On Shavuos, just one last point. I know it's really late. On Shavuos, there is no Yetzer Hara, no evil inclination blocking you from learning Torah. Literally, the Yetzer Hara is like removed. Just like on Yom Kippur, it says we have no Yetzer Hara. If you mess up then, it's just habit. Nothing's tempting you to sin. So on Yom Kippur, nothing's tempting you to sin. On Shavuos, nothing is tempting you not to learn. You might not learn, but it's just your own issues. There's no force trying to stop you. So therefore, it's
women.
really, what?
This is for women too, because we don't
Absolutely,
learn.
absolutely.
But I thought since the women didn't mess up, we don't need to learn. That's why the men stay up all night.
You don't need to stay up all night. I mean, whatever. It's a different issue. It's not a question of, we don't learn on Shavuos because we messed up. And I'm not talking about only that night. We've got 48 hours. And over those 48 hours, for that entire 48-hour duration, there's no Yetzer Hara. There's no force trying to keep you from learning. It is the time of year when you recommit to learning. I'm not saying anyone has to stay up at night. I don't know when you're going to find time, of course, but figure it out before and find that time when you prioritize learning, because that's what the holiday is about. I thought it's about cheesecake. Well, maybe that too, but it's really about connecting to God through the gift he gave us to connect, which is called Torah. Torah is God giving us a way to connect him on a very personal level. Torah is God saying, this is what I like, This is what I don't like. This is what I want. This is my thoughts. This is my diary. This is me. And I'm exposing myself to you. And you're like, could you imagine if someone gave you a diary, like a real intimate moment, they want to share something with you, and you're like, okay, honey, and you never opened it up and read it because like you just didn't have time or weren't so interested, whatever. So that's what God's doing. He's giving us himself. He's giving us a piece of himself when he gives us Torah. So we can connect him any day and should connect to him every day. And learning Torah is for men and women. Yes, we don't have the same obligations men have, but we have the same need to love God and fear God and believe in nothing else but God and prioritize God and connect to God. And all of that we get from Torah. So I might not technically have the commandments my husband have, but in terms of the need of me being a live person, in terms of a relationship with God, I need Torah. And Shavuos is the day, just like Pesach is a time to leave your limitations, and Sukkot is the time to take in joy for a whole year. Shavuos is the time to connect to God through the ring. Torah is like the marriage ring between us and God, through that bond created by learning. So that's what I'm supposed to do. So you don't have to do it at night. Go to sleep. You're probably exhausted. But over the holiday, you're supposed to do it. And it's really, when I learn Torah, I'm taking God inside of me. Torah is the only food for my soul. I could do mitzvahs all day long. They don't feed my soul. My soul could be starving and I could do mitzvahs all day long. The only thing that feeds my soul is Torah. And as I study, as I understand him more, as I absorb the intention of, I'm doing this for a relationship, I'm learning to have a relationship, then the Torah comes inside my soul like food. Then the Torah feeds my soul. So we need regular Torah. We need to feed it. We shouldn't be starving. Because imagine if your body didn't get food, you'd get weaker and weaker and weaker. Well, imagine if your soul doesn't get any food, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. But how can my soul get weak when I'm an Orthodox Jew? Because that has nothing to do with it. Because the only thing that feeds your soul is Torah. So I could do mitzvahs all day long, and my soul could be starving and weak. I need to feed my soul, and that's Torah. And when I learn Torah, I'm one with God. With the mitzvahs, I'm nullified to God. When I learn Torah, God and I become one. So, on a practical note, thank you for your patience. It's very appropriate before Shavuos, especially if you're going to be busy and you're going to be hosting meals and you're going to have kids around and there's going to be a lot going on in your life, to plan out when I'm going to learn and what I'm going to learn to make sure it happens. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to like fix it in time and fix Torah in my soul. So I don't want to waste the opportunity. I could do this any day of the year. Any day of the year I can connect to God through Torah. But this is the most auspicious time to make it happen. So we should all take advantage. So we went through a sort of crash course on all the great stuff we can do this week. And I hope we all take something from it very practically in our pocket. You could take large doses or small amounts, but walk away with something. And we should all receive the Torah with joy and with inwardness. Thank you so much for attending. It should be an amazing, truly meaningful week.
Amen. Thank you.
אמן, חג שמח, תודה רבה,
חג
שבוע
שמח.
טוב.
Chag Sameach, Shavuot Tov.
Thank you so much. This was amazing, as usual.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.